Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Luffy went to university and met 5 women, and they became his girlfriends. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, KingZTHE first, subscribe if you enjoy the video, let's begin the story. Sitting in the passenger seat of a black SUV was none other than the main protagonist of our story, with a bored expression plastered on his face, Monkey D. Luffy. Sanji, I'm so hungry. Why can't we stop and get some meat from somewhere? Luffy moaned while his head was hanging out the window, drool coming out his mouth. For the millionth time, no cause, we had to look for that shitty swordsman who got lost on his morning run, we had no breakfast, and now we're late for check-in. Sanji yelled from the driver's seat, pointing at Zoro in the back who was currently napping. Luffy moaned more before over the horizon a massive city came into view. In that moment both Sanji and Luffy's jaws dropped in sheer excitement as they passed a sign that read "Welcome to the city of the past and future, New World City." Luffy immediately started hopping up and down in his seat, causing a bag from the back of the vehicle to fall on the green-haired swordsman's face in the back. Luffy stopped all that jew he cut himself off as excitement started to well up inside him also. "This place looks so awesome though," Luffy said with bright stars in his eyes. The vehicle all of a sudden started swerving as Zoro and Luffy started getting thrown around the car. "The hell are you doing, Hero Cook?" Zoro yelled as he looked to see what Sanji was doing. Said Cook was currently ogling several good-looking girls that they had passed by while yelling Melorine, 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 Melorine with his upper body hanging out the window. "You damn shitty Cook. Pay attention to the road," Zoro screamed at the blonde. While laughing, Luffy grabbed the wheel in time for them to dodge death by oncoming traffic to steer them back into the right lane. Zoro sighed a breath of relief as Sanji started paying attention to the road again. After about 30 more minutes of driving and near-death experiences courtesy of a love-struck Sanji, they pulled up to the front of the university, which was swarming with students and teachers alike. The building they pulled up in front of had a banner that read "Welcome to New World University." Under the banner in front of the doors were the desk that the new students had to check in at to be told where to go. "Hey Luffy, be useful, go see if you can find out where we're supposed to go," Sanji said before Luffy started moaning again, remembering that he was hungry. "But Sanji, it's so far away, meet first," he yelled said. "You'll get your shitty meat once we get our shitty room together, now go," Sanji yelled. "Oh, I don't order me around. I'm the leader," Luffy yelled back. "Well then go, you shitty leader," Sanji said as he kicked Luffy out of the passenger seat window, sending him flying into a pink-haired girl who screamed as she began to fall. With lightning-fast reflexes, as he realized himself and the mystery girl were headed for the ground, he wrapped his arms around her and spun in mid-air quick enough for him to hit the ground first. Everyone around who saw the scene unfold rushed to see if they were alright. The sight that greeted them was a kid with a straw hat under a girl with beautiful skin, seashell earrings, and strawberry blonde hair that flowed down her back, wearing a white tank top and white mid-thigh shorts with heels on. As she leaned up, she yelped in surprise and jumped from Luffy when she realized she was on top of him. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry," she began to rapidly say as she began bowing in apology as Luffy picked himself up off the ground. For what?" Luffy questioned, confused. "Well, I bumped into you by accident and knocked you to the ground," the strawberry blonde explained. "Oh, it's okay, it's Anji's fault anyway for not giving me food," Luffy laughed. The girl didn't understand, but she felt relieved that the boy in front of her wasn't angry. "My name is Shirahashi, what's yours?" she asked. "Me, I'm Monkey D. Luffy," the boy with the straw hat introduced himself as. As he said that, a look of wonder appeared on Shirahashi's face. She felt as if she had heard that family name before, and then it dawned on her. Her face lit up with a mix of surprise and amazement at who the boy in front of her really was. "Luffy-san, is your father Monkey D. Dragon, president of the Revolutionaries branch of the university?" the pink-haired girl asked with not so subtle curiosity. A mile-wide smile grew on Luffy's face as he confirmed her theory. "Yep, that's my dad. It was on the news that the son of President Dragon was going to be coming to New World University, but I never thought I'd be the first to meet you." "Yep, that's me. But I gotta go to Skyhashi and check in, or Sanji will be mad and won't feed me." "Oh, and don't tell anyone who I am, okay?" "It's Shirahashi, and why not?" the strawberry blonde questioned. "Because everyone'll go crazy. But see you around, Shrikahashi." Luffy started walking away with a wave goodbye. "Its, Shirahashi," she yelled before walking away with a pout on her face at the boy's continued mispunctuation of her name. Luffy casually walked up to the check-in desk in front of the door, where another girl with long wavy blue hair with 2 bangs hanging down, one on either side of her head. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail. After students signed a check-in sheet in front of her, she'd search through a large stack of papers for their name and then point them in the direction of their dormitory. Her name was Nefertari Vivi, little garden arc outfit, and although she was also a freshman like everyone else, her father had brought her to New World University on many occasions since he was a professor at the school, so she knew the entire campus ground like the back of her hand. What she didn't know was that today she would be reunited with a boy from her childhood who now wore a straw hat that forever changed the outcome of her college years ahead. "Oh, is this where I sign in?" Luffy asked as he got to the desk. Vivi looked up with a bubbling smile and her eyes closed to answer. "Yup, this is the student check-in desk." As the boy in front of her signed his name, she looked down to see who he was so she could point him in the right direction. As soon as she did, her face shot up to look him in the eye to see if his name was who she thought he was. "Luffy?" she asked with her hand over her mouth. "Is it really you?" Luffy just stood there with a confused look on his face, wondering who this girl was and how she knew him. "Do I know you?" he asked while scratching the back of his head. "What, you mean you don't remember me?" "It's me, Vivi Nefertari," she said with a downcast expression at being possibly forgotten. "We played together a couple of times as kids when your father came to Alubarna on business." "Calamari?" he asked, cocking his head to the side, picturing the girl in front of him with squid arms and legs. Then it suddenly hit him at who the girl was. A mile-wide grin stretched across his face as realization hit. "Vivi?" he yelled. As soon as he yelled her name, she vaulted across the table and pulled him into a bone-crushing hug. Afterwards they threw their arms over each other's shoulders and jumped in a circle, shouting hooray hooray, hooray hooray, hooray hooray. As onlookers sweat dropped at their antics. "Luffy, it's been almost 8 years since I've seen you. I never would have guessed you'd be starting school here at NWU this year along with me. What are you doing here?" she said with a huge smile on her face. "Well, Dad said if I choose to come here it'd be a free ride and I could start my own crew as a freshman. And since Zoro and Sanji were coming here anyway, this school was perfect." "Wow, you get to start your own crew freshman year. That's amazing. Most students don't even attempt to join or even start a crew till they're juniors, and you can't even start one till you're a sophomore," the blue-haired girl explained. "Yeah, and Dad even said they have a brand new building waiting for us with a Jolly Roger the First drew a couple of years ago on it." "Hey, you're gonna join my crew, right?" the boy said, as more of a statement than a question. "What about me? Are you sure you would want me to?" Vivi asked with a blush on her face. "Of course I would like to for you, Luffy, but I'll have to go over it with my father first." "Cool, well, can you tell me where the crew houses are? If I'm gone too long Sanji might not get any food and I'm really hungry." "Yeah, it's down this road on your left. There you'll see Academy Street and all the crew houses will be there," the girl said as she pointed in the direction. As soon as she pointed, Luffy took off back to the SUV where Zoro and Sanji were waiting. "Okay, thanks Vivi, I can't wait for you to join," he yelled over his shoulder with a wave goodbye. Vivi just should be there smiling at being reunited with a close friend from her childhood. "Hey Vivi, your shift is over," some random girl said walking behind the table. "Hi," she said before taking off to look for her father. She wanted him to hurry and ask if she could join Luffy and his friends. Back at the SUV, Sanji was having a tough time staying focused with all the beautiful girls around him. Usually he'd be pissed at Luffy for taking so long just to sign in, but for some reason unknown to him, he really didn't care. "Zoro, how can you just sit there so casually with all these beautiful women walking around?" the blonde cook asked with hearts in his eyes. "What kind of question is that?" "It's because I'm not a shitty love cook like you," Zoro said with a smirk on his face. "What was that? You wanna go, you shitty swordsman?" Sanji yelled, jumping out of the truck getting into a fighting stance. "Bring it on, dartboard brow," Zoro insulted back, also jumping out of the truck with his swords, also getting into a fighting stance. "Boy Zoro. Sanji. I got the directions for where we're supposed to go. Let's go." "Hey, what's wrong with you two?" Luffy asked, oblivious of the brawl that was about to occur. With that, both of them tch at each other, then returned to the truck. 7 minutes later, the monster trio pulled up to a crowd standing in front of what looked like the most awesome house of the future ever. On the very top of the house was a flag with a straw hat Jolly Roger on it. As the three of them got out of the truck, they were awestruck like everyone else before Luffy finally yelled awesome, grabbing everyone's attention. One person noticed his straw hat and the straw hat on the flag. "Hey look, he must be the leader of this new crew house," someone whispered. "What? But he's only a freshman," another random student answered. Whispers and rumors of the boy with the straw hat rapidly stirred up within the crowd. Not really caring to stay and listening to rumors start up, Zoro started grabbing things out of the truck to move in. "Hey Luffy, you got the key your dad sent in the mail, right?" he asked, ignoring everyone else. "Yeah," Luffy replied, pulling it out of his pocket. "Well, stop standing around and let's move this stuff in already. You two hero cook," the green-haired swordsman demanded, breaking both out of their trance. Yeah, don't order me around, you bastard," Let me move the truck into the driveway first. Sanji started back. At this time everyone who had been gawking at the house and its patrons had left to spread the news. After 3 hours of exploring, playing with the technology in the house, unpacking, throwing things around, and at each other they were done, and Luffy was out to hunt. Hunt for food, that is. He was walking to where he had overheard some other students saying there was a collection of restaurants at. He soon came across a small cafe with an enlightening aroma coming from it. Following his nose, he walked in with his dead serious face on and found a seat at a table. All the waiters in the cafe were girls, and all of them seemed too scared to go take his order from the look that screamed death on his face. That is till one girl stepped up. She wore a faded purple button-up shirt and dark purple pants with a wide apron over it. She had long black hair with blue eyes. She also wore a name tag with her name over her right breast pocket. It read manager, and under that the name Nico Robin. As the boy walked in, it seemed as if the temperature in the whole cafe went down a few degrees. He had the look of someone with dark secrets to hide, which Robin liked. She was already known for her love of thrills and all things scary, and this boy who walked in had sent a chill down everyone's spines, including hers. He had the air of a hunter that wouldn't stop till he got his victim. Something she really liked, and also about how the atmosphere around him felt. She got up from her seat at the counter and walked over to take his order, since everyone else was too chicken to do it, though she thanked whoever the higher being above for it. "Welcome, my name is Robin. May I take your order, sir?" The black-haired woman introduced and asked with a smile that showed she clearly had ulterior motives. Luffy picked up the menu, gave it one glance over, and put it back down. "Yeah, gimme the second half of the menu, please," the straw-hatted teen said with a cold dead voice that dared anyone to question it. At that moment Robin became eternally infatuated with the boy, which could be seen by the newfound gleam in her eyes. "Right away, sir," she replied with an absolutely shining smile on her face before rushing to the back to prepare the food. "Robin, you're not really gonna try and make all that food for him, are you?" one of the other waitresses asked, walking into the kitchen. "And why shouldn't we? He's a customer, and such an interesting one at that. It would be rude not to serve him all that he asks for," she answered back, still smiling brightly. After disappearing for close to 25 minutes, she returned to Luffy's table with a tray of all that he asked for, sitting it on the booth table and sitting herself across from him. With no time to spare, he began to dig into the tray food as Robin just sat and smiled in his face. "Is there something I can help you with?" Luffy asked with a mouth full of food. The look of seriousness slowly left his face as his hunger slowly left his body. "I haven't seen you around here before. Are you one of the new freshmen this year?" the black-haired woman asked with curiosity in her eyes. "Yeah, my name is Monkey D. Luffy, and I, Sanji, and Zoro just finished moving into our crew house. It's big and has a zero-gravity staircase and a space refrigerator," Luffy explained. Across the empty cafe, all the waitresses stared from behind the counter, awestruck at the event that was happening in front of them. No one rarely ever sparked an interest in their manager. Although she was a junior, she barely had any friends and always seemed to be alone except being at work. She just always seems to just be there for everybody else. She was highly popular with the boys and got hit on at least 10 times a day, rejecting all who did. Yet here was this freshman, who ate with no manners whatsoever, they might add, that she was just idly chatting with, as if he was the most interesting person in the world. It was as if the entire world was coming to an end. Luffy devoured all the food on the table and let his mile-wide grin invade his face once again. As he arose from his seat, he began to search for his student card to pay for the food. Unfortunately, he then remembered he left it at the crew house on the kitchen table. He began to sweat at realizing he didn't have it. I kinda left my student card at the crew house." Robin held up her hand for him to worry about it. "Don't worry about Luffy, on one condition. You come here every now and then to come see me. Deal?" she asked him with the same smile that had been adorning her face the whole time he was there. "Boy, are you for real, Robin?" he asked, astonished. She simply nodded to answer his question. His response was a loud deal. As all the other girls in the restaurant yelled. He grabbed her hand, saying thanks before jetting out the door. "Hey Robin, are you sure that was a good idea? That kid has no manners at all, and he might scare away all our other customers." "I don't see what you see in him," one of the waitresses said. "It'll be fine. I like him, I really like him," Robin replied back in a calm, cool voice. The waitress just stared at her, dumbfounded at what she just confessed. The stoic, calm Robin, who seemed to enjoy everything dark, just confessed to liking a boy she only knew for an hour. Luffy was as happy as can be now that his stomach was full. He was now just strolling around the city-sized campus, taking in the sights. As he walked along the sidewalk, he passed a van. He was stopped by a woman with red-violet hair styled in a mohawk. She wore a green checkered shirt with the word Mace on it, indigo trousers, and brown sandals. She was about an inch shorter than Luffy. "Hey Straw Hat Kid, mind helping my daughter and her friend move her in?" There's some pretty heavy stuff here we gotta get up. The strange lady asked with a smile on her face. Luffy peered around her to see two girls getting boxes out of the van. One who he guessed was the woman's daughter had long orange hair that went midway down her back and a tattoo of what looked like a tangerine fused with a pinwheel on her left shoulder. She wore a dark green shirt with the word gold on it, generously showing off some cleavage, and long white jean pants with a purple ring belt. "Mom, you can't keep asking everyone who walks by for help so you can stand around and do nothing," the young girl said to her mom. "I agree with Nami, Ms. Belmere," a taller girl said as she came from behind the van. This girl had long black hair like Robin, except it went down to her waist, and snake earrings. She had dark blues comparable to a crystal. She wore a white skirt with two black stripes going down the side that showed off her long slender legs. The baby blue tank top she wore that was obviously too small showed off her toned stomach with pink spaghetti straps around her neck. I don't mind helping if you really want me to," Luffy said while scratching the back of his head. "See, he doesn't mind like a real gentleman, and he's even kinda cute too, wouldn't you say, Nami?" "Boa. Say kid, what's your name?" Belmere asked with a glint in her eye. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy," he replied. As he said that, the tall girl now known as Boa dropped everything she was carrying and pointed to Luffy with a look of shock on her face. "Luffy, you don't happen to be related to President Dragon, do you?" she asked, shaking a bit. "Yeah, he's my dad." "What about it?" Luffy questioned, cocking his head to the side. With that answer, Belmere and Nami joined Boa in awe as they too knew of the famous businessman and campus president Monkey D. Dragon, even though Nami was just a freshman. Belmere was the first to recover from the shock of who the boy was. "Looks like we ran into a really good, don't you girls think? Luffy would like to date then marry my daughter?" Belmere asked before being bopped upside the head by both Nami and Boa. "Ouch, you damn brats, that hurt," yelled at them. Boa and Nami were both now holding Luffy's hands, apologizing for Nami's mother's antics. "I'm sorry, Luffy. Please excuse my mother. She doesn't think before she speaks at all." "Yes, please excuse Ms. Belmere dearly," Boa chimed in after. Luffy just started laughing at the trio in front of them. "It's okay. I think you guys are funny." Boa and Nami smiled at him, then at each other. Belmere also smirked at the boy. Well, he said he's fine with it, so the kid grabbed something and let go. At that, Luffy picked up a desk with one hand and a heavy trunk with the other like it was nothing. When the three women saw this, their jaws dropped and you could have sworn you could have heard the heartbeat of one of them speed up. As they carried things up and down the stairs to Nami's room on the 4th floor, Belmere watched how the two young girls interacted with the male. It was clear that the three of them hit it off almost immediately. He had Nami and Boa constantly on the verge of tears with stories of his childhood with his surrogate brothers Ace and Sabo, and things they did sounded too astonishing to be true. Being an experienced woman, Belmere could tell that if the three stayed friends that the two girls would grow to like the boy. She knew of men like him. They were hard to come by these days. Men who didn't just stand ogling a woman's body and cherished friendship more than getting in her pants. A man with a pure heart. Watching them take up the last few boxes, she noticed a small blush on her daughter's face and an even more noticeable one on Boa's face. With a giggle and a smirk, she announced to herself, "Nami's got some adventurous years ahead of her. I hope she learns quickly to enjoy them." Leaning next to the door to the dorm, smiling into the sky. When the three came back downstairs, Nami and Boa were literally red in the face from laughing at whatever story their new friend Luffy was telling them. "Hey Nami, Boa, I'm about to go. Will you be okay?" Belmere asked her daughter and her close friend. Nami's smile faded and she just looked at her mother with a sad face. "I'll miss you, Mom. Call me when you get home." The reddish violet-haired woman pulled her daughter into a hug, telling her, "I'll me and your sister'll miss you too, and of course I'll call you when I get home. You are good, okay? And remember that you can call me for anything. I'm so proud of you," while fighting back tears. Nami too was on the verge of tears by this moment. "Luffy. Boa." The older woman called to the Straw Hat Boy. "Hi," they said together. "Do me a favor and take care of Nami for me, will ya?" she asked, letting some tears slip. Boa and Luffy looked at each other and smiled at her before replying, "Of course." But that she left in the van and the three were left there. "Boy, Nami, you gonna be okay?" Luffy questioned with newfound seriousness. "Yeah, I'll be fine. Thanks for asking." "Okay, well, I should probably be going before Sanji and Zoro gets mad at me." "How do you have 3 roommates? Dorm rooms only have room for 2. Boa asked, thoroughly confused. "Oh, we got a crew house," Luffy answered, as if it was normal. Was the girl's response. It was Sunday morning, the day before college classes started. NWU and Luffy and Zoro were sitting at the table waiting for Sanji to finish making breakfast for the 3 of them. "Did you guys see how big this school is? It's got to be at least the same size as our hometown," Luffy said, jumping up and down in his seat ready for the meal. Yeah, this place has to have at least 15 different dojos, each with a different sword style club in it. Which means plenty of people to test myself against. Zoro said with a confident grin on his face. Well, you two were scoping out the campus, I was busy scoping out the ladies, and I must say that we definitely made the right choice by coming to this school. Sanji chimed in with a perverted grin on his face while he was handing his crewmates their food. Sanji, you're a creeper, Luffy said while beginning to eat his food. What was that? Sanji yelled, breaking out of his perverted stupor. I'm gonna have to agree with the boss on that one. Zoro agreed, sneaking to himself. Sanji sat down at the table and started eating his own food before saying, yeah, you shitty bastards. Hurry up and eat your damn food cause we gotta be at the auditorium in an hour for orientation or whatever. Once the monster trio were eating, they got ready and headed out the door and down the street. Luffy was wearing blue shorts, a red sleeveless vest, and sandals with his trademark straw hat on his head. Zoro wore black pants with a brown shirt and his bandana around his right arm. His 3 swords were resting on his left hip, ready to be drawn at a moment's notice. Sanji sported a black double-breasted suit, a turquoise long-sleeved shirt with a light blue tie. The 3 casually walked down the street to the front of the auditorium when Luffy heard his name being called. Luffy? Hey Luffy. The unknown voice called till the 3 turned around. Calling the Straw Hat Captain was Vivi, who was jogging to catch up to her childhood friend. She was wearing a teal button-up shirt, tan shorts that stopped mid-thigh, and white boots that came up her legs. As soon as she got close to the 3, Sanji went into gentleman mode, spinning himself between Luffy and Vivi and handing the latter a rose that just magically appeared out of nowhere. Vivi stopped with a confused look on her face. Excuse me miss, but you must be on the wrong planet, as such a beautiful young woman as yourself would never talk to a complete imbecile like Luffy. Sanji stated while kneeling and grabbing her hand to kiss it. She lightly snatched her hand away so as to not be rude and turned towards Luffy with a "Why is he doing this? Look at her face." Luffy just proceeded to laugh and point at Sanji. Hey Vivi, that's my friend Sanji. Be careful because he's a pervert, Luffy laughed. So this is the Sanji you mentioned yesterday at the checkout table. Vivi replied back. I see, so you know of me then? Sanji asked with hearts in his eyes. Only if Luffy didn't hurry back would you give him food. Vivi replied before turning to the green-haired swordsman of the group. Hi, I'm Vivi, you must be Luffy's other friend I presume. She introduced and asked politely. Sup, name's Zoro, and how exactly do you know the thick-headed captain if you don't mind me asking? Zoro asked curiously. Hey, I'm not thick-headed. Luffy protested and pouted. If you're not thick-headed then he's not a shitty love cook. Zoro smirked, pointing at Sanji. Then I must be thick-headed then. Luffy agreed, laughing with Zoro. Haha, very funny you two. Sanji said with an angry frown before saying, now how do you know this baka? Pointing to Luffy. Vivi finished giggling at the 3 of them before answering Zoro's question. She got a distanced look in her eyes, remembering the time she and Luffy first met. Let's just say he saved me without even knowing it, Vivi said with a bright smile. I did, said the savior with a confused face. This must be before me and this guy knew him, Zoro stated before beginning to walk away. Hey, where the hell are you going? Sanji asked. I'm going to save us some seats if you must know. Why do you want to come? Zoro asked while Sanji walked towards him. I have no choice because if I don't you'll get lost and end up in Mariajois somewhere. Hey Luffy, we'll save you a seat inside, alright? Sanji stated. At that moment Vivi sweated and dropped at Sanji's earlier statement of Zoro getting lost. Does your friend Zoro really get lost like Luffy? She asked. Yeah, Zoro always gets lost. He's a real baka when it comes to directions. Hey, did you ask your dad if you can join my crew yet? Luffy asked excitedly. I did and he said yes. Vivi shouted. The 2 of them then linked their arms together before jumping in a circle, shouting hooray hooray, hooray hooray, hooray hooray, hooray hooray, causing onlookers to sweat drop at the 2. At that moment a motorbike pulled up in front of them with a lot of white smoke coming off of it. Hey Blueberry and Straw Hat, you 2 freshmen? A tall muscular man asked. He had slicked back white hair with black shades on and had 2 cigars in his mouth. Vivi proceeded to hide behind Luffy as the large man slightly scared her. Yeah, we're freshmen. Who are you? The blueberry-haired girl answered and asked from behind Luffy. I'm Vice Admiral Smoker, adult supervisor over the G5 Marine Disciplinary Squad, and according to my Hola watch, all freshmen are supposed to be in the auditorium for orientation. The Vice Admiral spoke. That's right sir, and me and my friend here were just about to head inside. Isn't that right Luffy? She nervously asked her friend who was still staring intensely at the Vice Admiral. Smoker noticed the boy eyeballing him like he was searching for something. Hey Strawwet, you got something you want to say to me? Smoker asked walking up to get in his face. At that point Vivi decided it was time to go before something bad happened before the first day of school even started. "I don't like you," Luffy laughed out as he had his hand in Smoker's face. As soon as he said that, Smoker and Vivi's faces were slapped with surprise as he bluntly stated his dislike for Smoker. "People like you have strict freedom and I'm gonna be the man in the world who has the most freedom. I'm gonna be king of the pirates," Luffy stated proudly with his head held high. If you think surprise covered Smoker and Vivi's faces before, it was 5 fingers smacked across now. Smoker knew that freshmen entering the pirate branch of the university tended to bring more trouble for him and his marines across the city. The Marine Disciplinary Committee was there to keep order within city boundaries since there was no police force in a city that consisted of 70% students. King of the pirates meant many things to many different people, but for the Marines it only meant trouble. As Smoker was lost in shock and thought, Vivi grabbed Luffy's arm and led him into the building. "We're sorry for disturbing the peace, Vice Admiral, we won't do it again," Vivi yelled to the man as she continued dragging Luffy inside. "I'm gonna have to keep my eye on that Straw Hat kid. He looks like trouble," Smoker said to himself before getting on his bike to leave. In the auditorium, Nami was now extremely nervous as she looked for some place to sit in the mall-sized auditorium. She was afraid this would happen this morning when she woke up. She'd come for orientation and won't have anyone to sit with, which particularly didn't bother her. It's just that everywhere she looked the other freshmen were laughing and talking and having a good old time. She only knew 2 people in the entire school, Boa and the guy she met yesterday, Luffy. She knew Boa wasn't there obviously and she was starting to wish for Luffy to randomly show up so she could sit with him and not look so lonely by herself. As quickly as her wish was made it was answered as Luffy came stumbling and being pushed by a blue-haired girl who looked to be about her age and height. She didn't know what it was, but something about the other girl being with Luffy while she was standing there alone irked her nerves. Nami decided to go over to them anyway, or risk being the only one still standing when orientation started. "Hey Luffy," Nami called out, running over to her first new friend at school. "Nami," Luffy called, waving to the girl as she came to where he and Vivi were standing at the entrance. Vivi looked to see who Luffy was waving at to see another girl about her age and height with long wavy orange hair. She wore a short light orange skirt with white rings on both sides and a striped blue and white shirt. "Hi, I'm Vivi." She introduced herself with a smile while extending a hand of friendship. "Nami," the other introduced, grabbing the hand to shake. "Where's your friend Boa? You look like you're all alone," Luffy asked, not to make Nami feel any better about the situation. "She's a sophomore so she wouldn't be here," Nami answered with a downcast expression. She was hoping that Luffy would get the picture and either ask her to sit with him or she'd have to do it herself. "Do you guys want to sit with me, Zoro and Sanji?" Luffy asked with a huge grin on his face. "Well, since you offered, let's go," Nami excitedly said, beginning to drag Luffy, who in turn grabbed Vivi so she wouldn't be left in the crowd. After walking a few meters Nami stopped. "I don't know what your 2 friends look like, Luffy. Just listen to the sound of 2 people about to kill each other." Luffy laughed, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as he said it, "You shitty Marimo, that was my armrest," came one shout. "No, it was on my chair dartboard, brow," came another. "Found him," Luffy said, walking to all the commotion. Vivi and Nami just looked at each other and nervously laughed while sweat dropping. As they closed in on the scene, Nami turned to Vivi to ask a question. "So Vivi, how do you and Luffy know each other?" Nami asked curiously. Vivi began to get a distant look in her eye before replying to the question. "Well, let's just say Luffy's a close friend from my childhood. It was only for a week, but in that week Luffy became what I use today as an example of a true friend. He saved me from some really bad people when we first met and I could never thank him enough for it," Vivi said, looking at the ground with a subtle smile on her face. Nami didn't know why, but she felt kind of jealous of the close relationship they seemed to have. She had one true friend like that and it was Boa, but after Boa left for college back in their hometown, Nami became sort of a loner. The only people she would really talk to was her mom, Najiko, and their close family friend, Genzo. As that conversation came to a close, the 2 girls had made their way to Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji. "Hey Vivi, Nami, come sit right here," Luffy called to them. Meanwhile, across the auditorium, a certain strawberry blonde watched, along with everyone else, 2 boys about to fight over what sounded like an armrest. It's not even the first day of class yet and there are already 2 people about to fight. Shirahashi thought to herself with a sigh. Still watching the scene unfold, she noticed someone familiar walk up to the 2 arguing boys. It was Luffy, the guy she met yesterday who was the son of President Dragon. She watched as Luffy went over, said something she couldn't read because of the distance, laughed, and miraculously the blonde green-haired guy stopped fighting. She could only guess that they were all friends. Well, most friends, since the other 2 were still glaring at each other. Shirahashi wondered what it would be like to be friends with people like that. After the murder of her mother and a near-rape incident occurred while Shirahashi was in middle school, her father and 3 older brothers became highly protective of her. Any friends she made, regardless if they were male or female, were pushed away from her. She was never allowed to go out at night unless it was with her father or all 3 of her brothers. The event had traumatized her family for a couple of years, but they were slowly getting over it. She was afraid she'd be trapped in her hometown forever, but with the support of her brothers, they were able to convince their father to allow Shirahashi to attend NWU. Pushing away depressing thoughts, Shirahashi just smiled to herself as she found a seat and awaited the beginning of freshman orientation. Unknown to her, she was being watched from a dark corner by a pair of bloodshot eyes that glared hungrily at her beautiful body. A sinister smile graced itself upon this dark figure's face as he licked his lips and proceeded to walk out the auditorium. "My sweet Shirahashi, you have returned to me at last, and you will soon be all mine." The auditorium was now full, and all the new freshmen had now taken their seats. Towards the left side of the auditorium sat, in this respective order, a weirded out Nami, a chuckling Luffy, a nervously laughing Sanji, and a sleeping Zoro. Lots of talking could be clearly heard throughout the entire auditorium, so not many were paying attention when 3 figures walked out onto the stage to begin freshman orientation. The largest of the 3 figures stood at the podium and gazed out at the new students, as did the other 2 that were standing a few feet behind him. After about 45 seconds of staring, he lifted his hand up into the air and brought it down onto the podium with all his strength, shattering it to pieces. "Damn it, not another one." The figure to his right grumbled quietly to himself under his marine cap. The other figure just stood there, not stating a word, with a confident grin over his face under his green hood that cast a shadow over his face. As the podium shattered to pieces, the entire auditorium became deathly quiet as many new students were confused and scared out of their minds at the sudden sign of aggression. Luffy just stared at the man with a blank stare, Sanji raised an eyebrow at the action, and Zoro was still sleeping away. Vivi and Nami were scared and speechless with the rest of the freshman student body. "Now that I have all of your attention, I would like to formally welcome you to New World University, and to those new to the city, welcome to New World City. I am Edward Newgate, the resident president of the pirate division of this university. The students simply call me Whitebeard, Pops, or Old Man." The giant man introduced himself. "To my right is Marine Division President Sengoku, and on my left is Revolutionary Division President Dragon." President Newgate introduced his associates. "The main purpose of the Marines remains rooted in the idea of bringing justice to any criminal. We use justice as our constituted policy to manage a world that is made entirely of one ocean much easier. Justice is what holds peace between the 3 sides here in New World City. Where there is no justice, there is no peace. Where there is no peace, there is only chaos and destruction. Rise, my future Marines, as you will be the new generation to uphold the law against those that would dare go against. Let the justice flow through your veins, for one day we will rid the world of every law-breaking scum in the world. If you wish to become a Marine, then leave the auditorium now." Sengoku shouted, raising his hands into the air and ending his rant, causing a third of the freshman student body to get up, cheer, and leave. Sengoku himself left the stage to begin to mold the next generation of soldiers into the world's greatest Marines. "Looks like he's got another group of youngsters riled up this year." The white-mustached president. "Well, looks like I'm up next." Dragon started walking up where Sengoku stood before him. He gazed across his youthful audience to make certain he had their attention. "Being a revolutionary is not easy, and I warn you now that the road ahead against those that oppose freedom and change will be protracted and arduous. Fate has chosen some of you to lead the winds of change in the world, whether you be revolutionary, pirate, or Marine." Dragon's speech began. "Hey Luffy, has your dad always been this fanatical about change and fate as he is now?" Nami asked out of curiosity. "Not really that I can remember," Luffy asked, scratching the back of his head like it would help answer the question. "He's really going at it up there like President Sengoku before him. By the way, which curriculum are you guys going to join anyway?" Nami asked. Luffy, Sanji, who stopped ogling Vivi long enough to answer the question, and an awakened and bored Zoro, stated in unison, "Pirates." "Really? Well, I can't say that I'm surprised at that." Nami started with a slight frown. "Of course that's not the surprising part, but there is another part that you will be surprised at, I guarantee it," Zoro said with a smirk across his face. "Oh really, and what's that?" Nami asked, not getting a response. Figuring she'd find out later, she ignored it and went back to listening to Luffy's dad talk about what it means to be a revolutionary. "Myself and the rest of the revolutionary teaching staff will make sure that those of you who wish to help make change where change is necessary a reality, and that you are instilled with the wishes and ideals of those who can't make change happen themselves. You will learn what it means to truly stand up for those that are in need of help in the world. Join me, and I will turn you into the greatest revolutionaries the world has ever seen." Dragon finished up. As he left the stage, those who wished to be a part of the glorious revolution did too. All that was remaining were those who wanted pirates and those who still weren't sure what they wanted to be. Whitebeard stepped forward back into the center of the stage and gazed out to the students, most of whom gazed right back at him. I'll assume that those of you who are still here wish to join pirates or aren't quite sure yet. Remember this, as you choose though, it is fine when a man decides what to make of his life, as long as he does not live to regret it. The pirate's life is among the most dangerous in the world, for unlike the Marines and revolutionaries, most pirates tend not to be allies unless it's for an ulterior motive. I won't stand here and bore you with a speech about being a pirate because everyone's got a different reason. At that moment, a burst of laughter came from the front row of the auditorium. Different reasons? What other reasons are there for becoming a pirate than the fame, power, wealth, and woman that come along with the role? Yelled a tall, darkly tanned young man with unkempt blonde hair. Chasing after anything else is a fool's dream. He continued, with several people around him laughing along with him. Whitebeard looked down at the boy with a grin. "Oh, is that what you believe, son, and what is your name?" the giant man asked. I'm Bellamy, captain of the newly formed Bellamy Pirates," exclaimed, pointing at himself with his thumb. "What of those out there who wish to become pirates for the title of Pirate King and search for the legendary One Piece?" Whitebeard asked. "The One Piece is a fool's dream only for those not strong enough to have the strength to chase after what's in front of them," Bellamy answered. "As for the title of Pirate King, that of course'll be me." Faces around the auditorium began to don a downcast expression as Bellamy talked down their dreams of finding the One Piece and calling it a fool's goal. In the back, Nami, Luffy, Vivi, Sanji, and Zoro listened to Bellamy's explanation of what it means to be a pirate. "Well, if this guy isn't a douchebag," Nami commented out loud to herself. When Bellamy proclaimed he was going to be the Pirate King, Sanji and Zoro looked at Luffy to see what he was going to do. As expected by them, excluding Nami and Vivi, Luffy stood up and put one foot in his chair and one on the backrest of the chair in front of him. "Boy," Luffy yelled, grabbing the attention of the entire auditorium. "There's only gonna be one Pirate King, and that's gonna be me," Luffy announced. To say that everyone except Zoro and Sanji were dumbfounded would be an understatement. Bellamy laughed at what he believed to be Luffy's foolishness. "Luffy, are you serious?" Vivi and Nami asked simultaneously. "He's as serious about it as he is about biting your hand off if you try to steal his food," Sanji answered. Bellamy was holding his sides in pain as he was nearly rolling around on the floor. "And what in God's name makes you believe that a scrawny squirt like you has what it takes to obtain the fame, power, and wealth this world has to offer?" Luffy donned a confused expression across his face. "I don't do any of that stuff. The Pirate King is the one in the ocean with the most freedom," Luffy said with his trademarked grin across his face. Emotions of all sorts started running through the audience as they watched Luffy and Bellamy's back and forth. After Luffy's declaration of becoming the next Pirate King, the feeling of a new challenger welled up inside 8 others in the audience. Internet cookie for anyone who can guess who. Whitebeard, who was watching the whole thing play out, got a hit of nostalgia after hearing what being Pirate King means to Luffy. He smiled to himself, thinking, "I like this kid. He's got spunk just like you, Roger." "Oi, Straw Hat, what's your name?" Whitebeard called out to Luffy. "I'm Monkey D. Luffy, and I'm gonna be king of the pirates," the straw-hatted boy called out. "I see. So another D has made its way to NWC," Newgate whispered to himself. "Monkey D? Ain't that President Dragon's name too?" a random person in the audience asked. "Yeah, he's my dad." "Oh, but don't tell anybody," Luffy called out in that person's general direction with a finger over his lip like he was shushing someone. At that point, most of the people in the auditorium fainted and Sanji stood up and whacked Luffy in the back of the head. "Ibaka. You already told everyone who you are," Sanji yelled at him. "Up too late then, I guess," Luffy laughed. There was lots of potential in these kids in Whitebeard's mind, and he was particularly expecting a lot from the straw-hatted boy. Feeling that orientation had gone on long enough, he lifted one foot up and stomped it into the ground to get everybody's attention. After the large boom that came from the stage, everyone turned their gaze at Whitebeard. "We've been in here long enough. This orientation is now over," Whitebeard announced. As he attempted to turn and walk off stage, he failed to notice that when he stamped his foot into the stage, he put a hole in it, and now, as he was about to walk, the hole held his foot and he began to fall forward. When he hit the stage, it all crashed down with him, effectively destroying the entire stage. "Hey, is he okay?" Vivi said, slightly concerned, but also while sweat dropping like most of the auditorium at what just happened. As if on cue, Whitebeard climbed out of the hole he just made and continued off stage. At that, everyone made their way out of the auditorium. "So shitty, Captain, what are we going to do with the rest of the day now that orientation is over with?" Sanji asked. At that moment, a rather large growl was heard like there was a lion nearby. "Well, I guess that answers that question now, doesn't it?" Zoro answered. Meet, Luffy yelled out at the top of his lungs, startling some of the students who were still walking out the auditorium. I know this great place a few blocks from here if you want meet Luffy. Vivi chimed in. Really? Where? Luffy said as he jumped up and down ready to chow down on some prime meat. It's this wonderful place called the Foxfire Grill. The owner and chef there is a samurai from the famed Wano country. Vivi explained, piquing the interest of another swordsman in the vicinity. He's a samurai, eh? Well then we went to the Foxfire Grill to eat. I'm quite interested now. Zoro said, gripping his swords, also getting a little excited. Hey Nami, do you want to come with us? Luffy asked the orange-haired girl. I would, but I'm supposed to meet up with Boa after orientation is over, but thanks for asking. So I guess this is where we'll part ways, and I'll see you guys around. Nami replied while walking away from the group. "I swan." Sanji called out, causing her to sweat, drop, and walk away faster. Now that Nami was out of sight, the group of four proceeded to begin the walk to the Foxfire, with Luffy bouncing up and down at the head of the group, with Vivi walking beside him, and Sanji and Zoro in the back. So Luffy, how long have you had your dream to become king of the pirates and look for the One Piece? Vivi asked, trying to break the silence. Since before I met you, I think. I made a promise to someone that I'd follow my dreams and become king. Luffy answered in a nostalgic fashion. I see, so what's your dream? She asked, looking back at the swordsman and cooking. I'm gonna become the greatest swordsman in the world. Zoro answered with a smirk on his face. And you? Vivi asked Sanji. I want to find the legendary All Blue. The place where all four oceans meet and fish from all over the world can be found there. It's literally a cook's paradise. Sanji said ecstatically. Also Zoro began. Help this Baka become the pirate king. Sanji finished. Wow, you all have great dreams you're working toward. I guess if I'm going to be a part of this crew then I'm going to have to find something to work towards too. Vivi stated to herself. Yeah, I guess so. Zoro said, not grasping what she just said till a moment later. Wait, what? Sanji and Zoro said simultaneously. Oh, Luffy hasn't told you guys yet, has he? He asked me if I wanted to join the crew and I asked my father and he said yes. Vivi answered with a huge smile on her face. Zoro and Sanji walked up to Luffy and simultaneously bopped him on the head, causing knots to appear. Thanks for telling us you're recruiting new members, you shitty captain. Sanji yelled at him with a large smile on his face, since their first new member was a girl, and a beautiful one at that. Like you care, stupid love cook, since Vivi's a girl. Zoro insulted him. What did you say? Sanji shot back. You heard me, Ero cook. Zoro yelled back. At this point they both were butting heads, looking like they were ready to fight like they always do. Should I expect this to happen a lot? Vivi asked Luffy. Yeah, it's normal, so don't worry about it. Luffy replied. The rest of the 8-minute trip was pretty much silent, besides the usual insult between Sanji and Zoro. Ah, here we are. The Foxfire Grill. Vivi said, beginning to walk inside first. As all four of them walked inside the old-fashioned restaurant, raw fish and a piece of meat was thrown into the air before someone called out Kitsunebi Ryu. Cas Islash Foxfire style. Fire slash. The raw fish and meat were sliced into pieces before falling back down as a fully cooked meal. At that moment Sanji, Vivi and Zoro had to shield their eyes from the bright lights radiating from Luffy's eyes. Boy, you're a bit too impressed. Sanji stated to a drooling Luffy with shining eyes. The man standing behind the counter at the grill was a tall man with an old-fashioned top-knot hairstyle and goatee. He wore a samurai guy, that black and white striped on the left side and orange on the right, and had two sword sheaths on his left hip. That last feature is only noted by Zoro. At that, a waitress came to greet the group and show them to their table. When they sat down at the round booth, she asked what they wanted to drink, then left to get those. Sanji, being the culinary specialist of the group, proceeds to look around the establishment, noticing the samurai armor and other items on the walls and such. The restaurant was lit by paper lanterns so well the place had a nice dark tone, it also felt warm and cozy. By the time he was done looking around, the waitress was back with their drinks and then asked them if they knew what they wanted to eat. After taking their orders, she left to go tell the chef what they wanted. Hey Vivi, do you know if the chef here has ever been challenged by someone here? Zoro asked the blue-haired girl. As far as I know, he has. I witnessed one of his challenges a couple of years ago here with my father. Vivi replied. Great. The green-haired swordsman said with a smirk on his face. Are you gonna challenge him to a duel? Vivi asked curiously. Yep, and I'm also interested in that peculiar sword style he's using. He explained. Once their food was brought out to them, with most of the table being filled up with what Luffy ordered, Zoro grabbed the waitress's attention. Hey miss, I was wondering, how do I go about challenging the chef to a duel? Zoro asked the waitress. She looked at the 3 swords he had with him, smiled, then clapped her hands really loudly. When she clapped her hands, a rope fell from the ceiling that she then grabbed and pulled. When she pulled the rope, the restaurant began to shake and rumble, as if going through an earthquake. Steam started coming up from the floor as everything in the building started to change and shift. "Damn, what did you do?" Sanji asked, attempting not to fall out of the booth. As the restaurant shifted, a large arena came out of the floor directly in the center. The cook jumped from his place behind the counter to the center of the arena before shouting, "Who has challenged the Foxfire of Wano Country? I, Foxfire Kinemon, hereby accept your challenge." The man now known as Kinemon said. "I did," Zoro said, jumping to the other side of the arena with a smirk, but excitement clearly written across his face. "Ya go Zoro." Luffy shouted, clapping two pieces of meat together in hands with two puff-up cheeks full of food. "What's your name?" Kinemon asked the green-haired swordsman. "Zoro, Rorano is Oro," he answered back. "Well then, Rorano is Oro, prepare to feel the heat of the Foxfire," Kinemon yelled while beginning to lunge at Zoro. "Gladly," Zoro shouted back, lunging toward Kinemon, ecstatic about his first battle in New World City. The end. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description. See you next time, till then, sayonara.